This is a terrific facility, but no one has been known to escape from Alcatraz and survive. Just imagine this with me. An entire isolated island constructed of heavy reinforced concrete and solid steel, surrounded by freezing icy waters and incredibly violent currents, strong enough to freeze a human body completely and paralyze it within just a few minutes. This is Alcatraz Prison, the fiercest fortress in human history. This is the notorious place where the most dangerous criminals are sentenced and sent to lose all hope and maybe even lose their lives. For 29 long years, the government proudly boasted to the world that escaping from it was absolutely impossible. But what if I told you that this legend is just a lie? And that ground-penetrating radar has recently uncovered a terrifying secret structure buried right beneath the guards' feet? A structure that could solve the greatest mystery in American history. My promise to you in this episode, you'll discover how the prison designed to be the end of the world was hiding an unbelievable loophole within its walls. Well, it's right before you. Built of cold steel and solid concrete. In 1962, it was far more than just a simple escape attempt. It was a full-scale, real-life war. The enemy? The toughest surveillance system in the world. 6 armed guard towers and a terrifying guard-to-inmate ratio. 1 guard for every 3 prisoners. The weapons? Stolen dining spoons, rusty saw blades, and the motor from a discarded vacuum cleaner. When it came to the warriors, there were 3. The notorious Anglin brothers joined forces with the legendary escape genius Frank Morris, a man who possessed an incredibly high IQ of 133. Is it truly possible that simple dining spoons could ever defeat thousands of tons of reinforced prison steel? This is where the fierce struggle began, in the silence of the night. Now, I want you to keep this number in mind. 50. Remember the number 50? Well, because we'll come back to it later. And it would be the single most important factor between survival and a human body slowly descending down to the bottom of the ocean. The clock strikes midnight. The cell lights are completely extinguished. Frank and his fellow companions started to execute their astonishing plan. Every night, they painstakingly chipped away at the concrete wall around the ventilation openings beneath the sink. Every scratch on the wall, every stone that fell, posed the risk of being discovered. If the guard heard them, they would end up in solitary confinement in the dark forever. To cover up the sound of digging, Frank would often play his old accordion during the strictly allowed music hour, using the loud noise of the melodies to carefully mask the sound of grinding concrete. But how exactly could they work for several hours behind the wall without the watchful guards noticing their absence during the nightly inspections? The solution was terrifying in its simplicity and brilliance. They actually created realistic, fake human heads. Yes, they used soap, shaving cream, and cement dust. And they even snuck into the prison barber shop to steal real human hair and glue it onto those heads. They placed them on the pillows in the dark. The guard would walk by, shine his flashlight. He sees human hair and a body covered with a blanket, so he keeps walking. One mistake? Just a single backward glance from the guard, and this entire story would have come to an abrupt end before it even began. But was that really enough to make it out alive? Behind the cell walls? Eventually, the prisoners discovered an old, completely unused service corridor. They managed to turn the entire roof of the cell block into a fully secret, hidden workshop that absolutely no one knew about. This is the exact place where they started making their only tool for survival. Do you remember the number I asked you to memorize? 50. The waters surrounding the island are deadly. Swimming in those waters means plunging your body into freezing temperatures and facing the absolute certainty of death. That is exactly why they carefully stole 50 heavy-duty raincoats from the prison. One by one, piece by piece, over the course of many long months, they used them to construct a 14-foot rubber raft and several makeshift life vests. The irony here is astonishing. The prison that provided them with raincoats to protect them from the rain was, in silence, providing them with the very weapon for their escape. On June 11, 1962, 0 hour had arrived. The men decided to carry out the final blow. They slipped through the openings and began climbing up in the darkness of the ventilation corridors. But suddenly, disaster struck the plan. The fourth prisoner, Alcatraz West, couldn't remove the metal grate from his cell. It was stuck tight. Time was running out, and the guard's footsteps were getting closer. Would Allen shout for help and expose everyone? Or would Frank Morris make the hardest decision and leave his friend behind to face his fate? The battle had reached its peak. And what awaited them on the prison roof and in the depths beneath the island was stranger than any nightmare they had imagined. Frank Morris made the difficult decision not to wait for anyone. They left their trapped friend behind and ventured out into the shrouded darkness of the night. The three of them crawled through a complex network of rusty pipes, choking on dust and tension until they finally reached the prison roof. Imagine the terrifying scene. The wind was howling like crazy. It was pitch dark. In front of them were two massive fences covered with razor-sharp barbed wire. Any wrong move, any slip, and they would plummet down from a height of more than 15 meters, their bodies smashing against the jagged, unforgiving rocks below, tragically losing their lives before even touching the water. Will the plan succeed? Miraculously, and with an indescribable force of desperation, they made it past the barbed wire. They slid down a steep, rocky slope toward the shore. Now the fiercest confrontation of all was about to begin. The enemy was no longer the prison guards, but the harsh forces of nature. I want you to keep this number firmly in your mind. 12. That number is the water temperature in Celsius in San Francisco Bay on that freezing night. Scientifically, at this temperature, if a human body falls into the water, it loses heat at a dangerously rapid and alarming rate, and its muscles cease to function entirely within just 20 minutes. Will the makeshift raincoat raft they built withstand these treacherous and freezing deadly waters? Or will it just be a floating rubber coffin? At around 10 o'clock at night, the three men slowly pushed their makeshift raft toward the dark, freezing waves and quickly disappeared into the night. They disappeared entirely without a trace, almost as though they had never been there. By the time the next morning arrived, the guards began their usual rounds. Silence filled the cells of Morris and the Anglin brothers. The guard called out sharply. No answer. He got angry and moved forward to wake the prisoner by force. But when he touched his head, it was the shock that shook all of America. What he was touching wasn't a human body, but a fake head made of corrugated cardboard and strands of human hair. Loud emergency sirens began to blare, and the entire island was placed under a strict lockdown. Where'd they go? This is where a different kind of war began. A war of information and reputation between the U.S. government and the legend of these prisoners. The largest manhunt in modern history was launched. Hundreds of police officers, Coast Guard rescue boats, helicopters, and specialized tracking dogs scoured every single inch of the area. What was the final result? After days of grueling search, almost nothing. On the 14th day of June, they found a single wooden paddle floating miserably. Later on, they found a shredded and damaged life jacket made from those same raincoats, clearly showing jagged bite marks, maybe from a shark or some other sea creature. But what had happened to the owners? No bodies were ever recovered. The FBI scrambled quickly to save the entire system's reputation. They issued a confident and decisive statement. The ocean swallowed them up, and no human being could survive in water at that extreme temperature. Do you remember the number? Yes, 12 degrees Celsius. They closed the official case, and it was widely concluded that the prisoners had tragically perished by drowning to death. The federal system is invincible, and absolutely no one can successfully escape from Alcatraz. But did those men actually fail in their attempt? Is it possible that a genius like Frank Morris, who planned everything with terrifying precision for months, would make a mistake calculating the water currents? Here lies a paradox that drives you crazy. At the same time, the government was insisting they had drowned. For many years after the escape, the Anglin brothers' family was receiving mysterious greeting cards every single holiday, signed in the brothers' own personal handwriting. And what's even more chilling is that their mother used to receive a huge, beautiful bouquet of flowers every Mother's Day, with no note and no sender's name attached at all. And when their mother finally passed away in 1973, something very strange happened at the funeral. Two incredibly tall and imposing men suddenly appeared before us, wearing very strange old-fashioned clothes and thick layers of heavy makeup specifically designed to hide their true facial features. They stood away from the crowd, silently watching the casket, then disappeared just as suddenly as they had appeared. Were they John and Clarence? Did they outsmart the most powerful security agency in the world? This conflict between the government's story and the public's doubts persisted. But what no one noticed all those decades was that the secret to their escape, and maybe the secret to their survival, wasn't above the water's surface. But it was hidden away and buried right beneath the guards' feet during the entire duration of the search. For years, the old maintenance workers would often gather to whisper nervously in the hallways about those heavy, rusted iron doors that had remained locked and never opened for many years, and about the sound of footsteps echoing from underground in places that were supposed to be abandoned. Back in 2019, a dedicated team of expert researchers finally decided to put a definitive end to these persistent rumors. They brought along highly advanced state-of-the-art ground-penetrating radar devices and sophisticated laser scanners, and then they began the process of meticulously scanning the entire main prison yard. What appeared on the radar screens wasn't just ordinary rocks or discarded old pipes. It was a profound and startling shock that completely took the researchers' breath away. Directly beneath the prison yard, under thick, heavy layers of solid concrete that the guards walked on every single day, winding corridors appeared, massive fortified rooms, and complete architectural structures of an underground city that had nothing to do with the prison we know. Something still doesn't add up. There was a clear path out, right through the heart of the rock. And more importantly, did Frank Morris discover it by chance and use it as a secret alternative escape route, leaving the inflatable boat as nothing more than bait to trick the police? What the radar screens revealed beneath the guards' feet wasn't just random rocks, but rather a shocking revelation of the highest order. a fully intact and elaborate secret structure concealed away in the very depths of the remote island landscape? Do you know what the most ironic contradiction in the entire recorded history of the United States is? The prison that was designed to be the ultimate nightmare for criminals, the place from which escape was supposed to be impossible, was actually built on top of what used to be a paradise for smugglers. Let me explain quickly. Before Alcatraz became a federal prison, specifically during the Prohibition era in the roaring 1920s, a compelling and strong theory emerged, supported by detailed historical maps, suggesting that these underground tunnels were used as a secret lifeline for smuggling contraband. The passageways were ingeniously engineered and connected different parts of the island without any military justification. And when the federal government authorities decided to transform the entire facility into a maximum high-security prison, the engineers chose the cheapest and fastest solution. Instead of demolishing this underground maze, they simply proceeded to pour hundreds upon hundreds of tons of reinforced concrete over it and buried the secret in darkness. But will the secret stay hidden and buried forever? This is where the conflict reignites. Were these long-lost, forgotten tunnels actually the secret ultimate key to their escape that Frank Morris discovered? Did they manage to crawl through narrow cracks in the concrete into this maze while police boats were combing the icy water's surface completely in vain? Now, I want you to keep this very simple number in your mind. 5, a small number, isn't it? But it will completely turn this entire story upside down and reveal to you how an entire system can deliberately hide the absolute truth just to protect its image. In January of 2018, a letter was unexpectedly leaked to the local media outlets. A handwritten letter whose author claimed it contained the very truth that deeply terrified the highest authorities. The letter began with these shocking words: "My name is John Anglin. I successfully escaped from the prison at Alcatraz in June of 1962, along with my brother Clarence and our friend Frank Morris." Imagine reading a letter from a ghost who was supposed to have been swallowed by the ocean decades ago. But the letter didn't stop there. The writer then dropped his next bombshell. "I am now 83 years of age. I am currently living with cancer. Yes, it is true that we all survived that night, but it was extremely difficult." The writer also went on to mention that his friend Frank sadly passed away in 2005, and his brother Clarence also passed away shortly after in 2008. Now we've finally reached the peak of the challenge. The writer presents a straightforward deal to the U.S. government. If you announce on television that you'll guarantee me medical care and won't imprison me for more than 1 year, I'll tell you exactly where I am. This is not a joke. Do you realize the magnitude of this disaster? A sick old man is threatening to bring down the entire Alcatraz legend. But when did this letter actually reach the hands of the police? Do you remember the number I asked you for? Yes, the number 5. This mysterious handwritten letter was officially delivered to the San Francisco police back in the year 2013. And the FBI maintained a state of absolute and total secrecy and carefully concealed the documents deep within their office drawers for a lengthy period of 5 consecutive years before it finally leaked out to the general public. Why the silence? What could possibly scare the world's most powerful security agency about a letter written by an old man? Did they test the letter? Yes. They meticulously checked the fingerprints and carefully compared the DNA samples with biological cells provided by the Anglin family. However, the final result was ultimately inconclusive, They simply can't confirm that it's a fake, and they can't officially admit that it's real either. If the letter is genuine, that means the entire federal government system has effectively lost this legal battle twice. The first time was when 3 men managed to break out of the supposedly unbreakable prison. And the second notable instance was when they successfully managed to remain hidden and living for weeks, months, years, and even entire decades directly under the watchful eyes of the justice system. And maybe by using those underground tunnels that the government denied existed. Could it be that the notorious mastermind, Frank Morris, based his entire plan on a detailed old map of the hidden underground tunnels he stumbled upon in the prison library? And how did they manage to survive on the outside for all that time? The most terrifying theory, which researchers whisper about in hushed tones. But what if we consider that these men never actually even set foot in the icy ocean waters that night? Just stop and think with me for a moment, in the way a man as exceptionally brilliant and clever as Frank Morris would. Would he really go to such extraordinary and painstaking lengths for months on end and craft those highly realistic decoy heads with such masterful precision just to throw himself into the freezing 12 degrees Celsius waters of the bay on a makeshift raft made of raincoats? His groundbreaking new theory, known as the secret escape tunnel, proposes a fascinating scenario that turns the whole story completely upside down. The prisoners didn't escape through the violent waters, but instead used those forgotten military tunnels beneath the prison to reach a blind spot on the island. A secluded spot that was completely hidden from the guards' view. And there, a real boat was waiting there for their arrival. Could it be possible that someone on the inside helped them? A corrupt guard? Or maybe maintenance workers who secretly discovered the tunnels and got paid to help them escape? This clearly explains the reason why the escape was so incredibly clean, and why all 72 of the and why their traces completely disappeared. Furthermore, have you ever wondered why the waves have never once washed up or deposited a single human body to this day? The inflatable boat and the torn life jackets that the police later found were absolutely nothing more than a brilliant decoy they threw into the water to intentionally mislead and deceive the authorities and make them search in the wrong place. Meanwhile, the FBI rushed to declare its premature and largely imaginary victory and officially closed the case in 1979, claiming that the prisoners had surely perished by drowning in the frigid bay waters. However, there was another dedicated security agency that flatly refused to believe this lie. The U.S. Marshals, the elite federal agency specialized in tracking down the nation's most dangerous fugitives, steadfastly refused to close the case and continue their search to this very day. They looked at the facts with cold objectivity. There is no physical body found, and no conclusive proof of failure. For them, the battle was far from being over. I want you to listen carefully to this shocking number. 99. This number is not just a figure. It is a strictly enforced rule. The U.S. Marshals Service officially announced to the public that they would never give up or close the Alcatraz escape case except in one very specific and particular situation. Only if those escaped prisoners finally attain the advanced age of 99 years old. This means that even at the moment you're watching this episode, they still consider John, Clarence, and Frank to be fugitives who were alive. And the outstanding warrants for their arrest remain active and legally binding, with their ghosts being relentlessly pursued across the globe. The contradiction here is astonishing and reveals the true nature of the conflict. One government side is trying to bury the story to save face and confirm the strength of Alcatraz's walls, while another side refuses to give up and continues the pursuit for decades. Every time we uncover a layer of concrete at Alcatraz, we found a deeper secret. A prison that was supposed to be the final destination for America's most dangerous minds, may have actually been the stage for the greatest trick in modern history. And maybe, somewhere in this world, these three remarkable men lived their lives in quiet contemplation, silently and patiently watching as their story slowly turned into a legendary tale, and how the very system that had once promised them certain doom was ultimately powerless against simple eating utensils, basic raincoats, and the sheer power of indomitable human intelligence. And now the battle finally shifts to you. Do you really believe they succumbed to the freezing temperatures and died in the treacherous waters of the Pacific Ocean on the night of the escape? Or does the mysterious letter from that ailing old man and the discovery of secret tunnels prove that they actually broke the legend of Alcatraz and lived free? Share your opinion and analysis in the comments now, because I'll be reading them all to see who among you has the mind of a detective. And if you love diving into the secrets of mysterious places and breathtaking stories of human resilience, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And make sure to smash the like button so you can be one of the very first people to help us solve the next mystery. See you in the next episode. Take care.